still says recording. Still okay. I think we're good. So the YouTube chat should be coming in. I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Hello? Hello, everyone? I'm gonna look at my YouTube on my phone to see if people are here because I am not seeing any comments. Ah, there you are! I see you, Nicole. Ahoy! Ahoy! Guess where Bob is? You get one guess. You get one guess only. If you could guess where Bob Ruff would be right now, I have a feeling everyone will get it. On first guess, that is correct. Nicole Grayson, you're the first to weigh in. He absolutely is peeing. Yes, Teresa, Jen, 100%. Tiffany, I wish I could say shower. I leave the did you shower question for the live because I don't want to have the truth before you guys do. So we're going to find out if he is going to tell us whether or not he took a shower. That's a
Look at
cute pink
that.
shirt. I didn't even notice that shirt till right now.
I don't know why the first name that I saw on there was Chantel. And Chantel, you should know that I'm pretty sure I just packaged up your Patreon shirt. That was the other thing I was going to talk about in Patreon. Hopefully I don't have that name wrong. And you're like, what? I don't know. I'm going to get a shirt and I didn't even supposed to get one. But I'm pretty sure it was you because your last name sounds familiar. I spent the latter half after dinner today packaging up like 120 shirts to send out to patrons. So lots of you will be getting your Patreon shirts in the mail.
Cool.
If you are a medium, maybe a little bit more. So many mediums. I ran out of mediums.
Got it.
So I'm gonna have to order. I think I got within like 3, and I ran out. So I have to order more mediums. Tomorrow I'm gonna get the hats out. I think I've got like 27 hats I need to send out. Thank you guys all so much. But patrons,
cool.
I'm doing my shit. Sandra, if you and I will say this, if any patrons are in here, I said this several months ago, but and I just now got to them. But the website you did not tell me your sizes. So if you are a $15 patron and you have not received your shirt, go onto Patreon, send a message that says, hey, I need a shirt and this is my size. Because that web, the one I love Patreon, but man, that the it doesn't help. Let me explain this. Mike handled sending out the Patreon stuff for years. When he left and I took over, I discovered that there's a place where he would go through and like click each like member and then go through the members and see which level they were at, and then he would message people and say what's your size, and they get it back, and then he'd print me out a list for me to mail them out. I discovered after he left there's a spot where you hit member benefits and it pops up and it says these are the people you owe shirts to, all in a line, and when you're done you hit complete and they're gone, which is super helpful, except for the first 4 years of that, Mike was not using that. So all the people that already got sent shirts are still on that list.
I see.
It also does a super fun thing where there's really no rhyme or reason in the order it puts them in. And the date that you've owed it since says like April 2nd. It doesn't say the year, which for most people wouldn't be an issue. But when you've been sending out shirts for 5 years and a bunch of those people on that list were already sent shirts 4 years ago, April 2nd's not super helpful.
Opposite of helpful, one might argue.
Yeah. So what I did, for those of you that are there, what I did was I went through my messages and pulled out all the messages where the people sent me a message with their size, and then I matched all those people up to the list of the shirts that it said I owed, and I packaged all those up, sans I think 2 mediums because we ran
Okay.
out. And I may message those people because I just so badly want to have it done. I may
They'll
message
take a
those people
different
and
size.
say, how about a large? How would you like a
Uh-huh.
nice large? How about a large? And I'll even throw in a Bob Ruff Comedy Hour t-shirt with it. To really
Ooh.
spicing things, sweeten the deal for people.
Yeah.
Um, anyways,
Sounds
so
great.
that stuff's coming. Oh, we already got a super chat coming in. Pre-show super chat, the unprecedented pre-show super chat from Tiffany
Yeah.
Webb. Thanks, Tiffany. Zach can't stand the stinky, unshowered Bob. That's precisely right. In Zach's honor.
Yo ho, a pirate's life for me. We pillage and plunder, we rifle.
All right, that's enough.
I was really trying to match your sways.
Yeah. Zach, I don't know if you
Oh.
already told him this, but yeah, Zach is. I don't know what he's doing, but he told us last week that he wouldn't be here this week.
Yeah, he did tell us that. He did announce it, and I think we all temporarily forgot. But then I remembered when you reminded me, I remembered.
Yeah.
I don't care for it. I prefer him to be here, but he did already excuse himself.
Oh, interesting. I just saw this. Catherine, Janet, and I were just talking about this in
We
the
really were on the
Patreon
Patreon.
Patreon hour. I listened to. Oh, I didn't listen once they got into the end and they um of today's episode or yesterday's whenever it came out and they started doing like their question from the reviews. I stopped listening, so I don't know if it was after that, if it was something in their Patreon. Um,
Everyone says
I
I'm still too quiet, by the way. I don't know
oh,
if we ever addressed that.
we did. If you go into your
Oh.
settings and your audio, make sure it's checked to auto level. Maybe I think we need to do to turn on. So I've been listening.
Yeah, it's checked. Automatically adjust mic volume. It is checked.
And yours is, then maybe uncheck it and turn it up until people say that it's good.
Okay. Is this making a difference? I repeat, is this making a difference? Hello, 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 hello. Is that changing anything for anyone?
It's louder for me. Is it
Okay,
louder for
all
you
right.
guys?
Is it loud enough for everybody?
Yeah, it was always loud enough for me.
This is me testing. I am almost all the way up to the max volume. No, it doesn't. It hasn't changed anything. That suggests that it's something else.
Yeah, and it's kind of clipping too, so you might want to turn. Last week, I thought remember last week we had you do that, and then it was like everybody said it was fine.
I don't know if everyone said it was fine. I still see. It seems like every week I see comments from folks
Well, so like
saying that
Nikki says she hears you fine.
That's
And
so confusing.
Danae said it sounds better for her. Janet's volume's fine.
Huh.
I can hear Janet fine. It's better now. Okay, so we're good now.
Okay, but you did hear the clipping. Well, we're going to hope that the clipping doesn't happen. That might be a connection issue.
Well, the thing is that like if we hear it through here, you're recording your audio locally, so that won't. You didn't adjust that level, so for the actual audio, we'll
Correct.
be fine. So anyway, Catherine, and I see a bunch of people are talking about that. I don't know what Brett said. Did Catherine and please respond down in the chat. Did he say if they are going? So what I did is I asked Brett because everyone on Twitter or X, I saw that the other day you made a post that said you're out of here. Was that because they changed it to X, or was just everything?
It was just too much. It was just too much. When I looked down at my own apps on my phone and there was just a big black and white X, I was like, what is this? And then I opened it, I was like, this is Twitter. Ew, this is so annoying. And it just was so irritating to me that I was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. And my theory is
I'll never remember to open it. It doesn't look like a bird anymore. I won't even remember what that app is.
The story is that years and years ago, back when he was like part of PayPal or something, I think it was PayPal, was going to be x.com, and they owned the domain x.com. And then they ended up not using that domain. And then he paid millions of dollars to keep that domain. And so now he's going to use. It's like me, Janet. He went into his GoDaddy.
You knew I was going to say, oh, so he bought x.com and it was
yeah.
And x.org and x.edu and x.biz.
He went into his GoDaddy account and was like, we need to use this one. Anyway, but everybody kept like tagging me in all these posts about, or all these comments and tweets about, or X's, whatever they fucking call them now, about the Prosecutors coverage. So I started listening to it. I have thoughts. Catherine says, focus, kids. I keep starting to answer her question.
Catherine, fair.
That's fair.
Fair point.
so I started listening to it, and I definitely have thoughts. I reached out to Brett, and I said, what would be great, because everybody keeps tagging us together and all this stuff. Why don't we do a crossover and we can have a discussion? And he had said that they didn't want to do a debate, and I said, well, I'm not looking for a debate, but I think it would be good to have like a friendly conversation where I can, when you're explaining that you see things a certain way, this is your perspective based on this, for people to hear, for both of our, because my thought is we would record it and we post it on both feeds so that my audience can hear their perspective and how I feel about their perspective, and their audience can hear my perspective and how they feel about my perspective. And if I remember correctly, the conversation ended, well, I can look right now. Because I believe, just going into my X app here, he said, let's get together after we wrap up. We'll figure something out. So that sounds like he's open to that. So what I was going to ask you, Catherine, if you can please stay focused, is did he say that they are going to do this crossover with me, or did he just say that we were discussing it? And now we'll wait for your response. And I don't know how to get that to go away now. Out there, it isn't out there yet.
Colin's been posting about it too. That would be an interesting read, because I'm sure Colin has just dismantled everything.
Yeah. Oh, so it was on a live. She said that it was on a live for their patrons is where it was discussed. I'll see if she mentions what him and Colin got into it on Twitter. It was rough. I might have to go see that. I saw Colin was responding back with
I'm going to go ahead and guess that it was rough, because Colin was like, let me break this down for you. And then.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, I'm going to wait until we start the podcast, because I want to talk about it a little bit. But so all he says was that he spoke to me about it. So that's what the conversation was. The conversation was me asking them to join me on a podcast to discuss their coverage compared to my coverage and our thoughts. And I said to them, I don't want it to be, doesn't need to be a debate. I want to, like you could take say, for example, the Nisha call, where you could say, okay, you take these facts and come to this conclusion. I take these facts and come to this conclusion, and this is why. And they can explain, well, this is why and that's, I want to try to have a conversation where no one's trying to change anybody's mind, but at least letting people know where we're coming from.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
A couple of people said that they have listened to, they haven't listened to the Adnan series, and it's frustrating. It's frustrating. And again, okay, Bob, wait until we're short on questions today. I'll wait until we start.
Yeah.
We're short on questions. We're short on Zach's. We're short on all that stuff.
Yeah.
Also, listen, I'm gonna be straight with you guys. Only Murders in the Building season 3 dropped today.
No.
Not for. I know you don't like comedy.
No,
comedies.
Only Murders in the Building is great. I'm just saying, I forbade you to use that as any kind of motivator for how long or how short this episode is.
Listen,
it won't be a look for you.
I've got a problem times 2. Let me break this down for you. After dealing with everything with Titus this weekend, I spent a day, which I never do, sitting on the couch watching TV, which is very odd for me. It gave me anxiety. It may have resulted in some of the breakdowns, was just because I felt weird just sitting there. But we were trying to find something to watch. I had seen on social. I'm in on Facebook, the Rabia and Ellen's group for their show, and I think I don't know why. I don't really use Facebook, but I was in it, I think, because I was on a couple of their episodes. Anyway, everybody was posting that Rabia had suggested people watch the Amazon Prime show called Deadlock. Loch, by the way, at the end, like Loch Ness, like the Scottish word for lake, or some other foreign country's word for lake. Deadlock. It's an Australian show. But everybody was commenting about how good it was, and they were binging it all night, and they couldn't stop watching it.
I'm going to add this to my list.
Oh yeah. So we started it on Saturday, and it fucking great. It's a mystery, and it's one that is done very well, kind of a whodunit, and keeps you guessing right up to the very end, while also with like just the right amount of comedy sprinkled into it. It's very good. And so I think we're up to the season finale. And it was like 11 o'clock last night, and Becky wanted to start the next episode because some crazy shit happened at the end of the episode, like it always does. And it's like, I gotta go to bed. It's 11 o'clock. So we got that on. We got that waiting for us. We got Only Murders in the Building waiting for us. I got a lot
I'm
going
not
on.
supposed to be even talking about any of this, but I'm not. It's not like I'm on any of those shows.
Oh, that's
just
right.
FYI, I support the actors' strike,
Yeah.
the writers' strike.
Right.
I'm not actively promoting either of those shows.
How does that work? Yeah, you're not promoting. Yeah, I think because this is stuff that's already done and out there, but that's still kind of in the purview of.
Yeah, you're just not supposed to be doing anything to help the studios.
Should have mentioned that 20 minutes ago.
The problem is that I sit on here with you, and it's you and I are just sitting and talking about our lives and what's going on. Then I forget that it's like something that goes out to the world. But
yeah. All right, we should start the show.
Yeah,
you gonna be able to do an intro? You got?
I think so. I mean, it's pretty simple, but yeah, it's true, guys, that I did not prepare anything at all. So we're gonna see how this goes.
Okay, so we're live. Let's hit record. And by the way, any of you that are patrons that are here now watching this, I really hope that you guys have the little ticker in the corner says that we do. I'm terrified that the first hour didn't record, and that you won't get to cry with me and Janet talking about our dogs, and that would be sad and unfortunate for you guys. So hopefully that's there. But let's go ahead and hit record.
Okay. Alrighty.
1, 2, 3. Room tone.
Okay. I guess I should say ahoy, friends.
Should you though?
I need to honor Zach.
Maybe this is when we break that silly habit that he started.
Okay. Well, I can always give you a backup. Hello, friends. Thank you for tuning in to Truth and Justice. This is our follow-up episode for Season 13 and our episode about Andy Wagner out of Indiana. Another case of a missing person. Loved ones are looking for her, and we have several questions from our Facebook. God damn it, so close. I should never have looked over at your face. That was a huge mistake. And, of course, we have our follow-up questions from our listeners, so let's jump into it. Bob?
I don't know how to get out of this. There we go. There it is. All right, thanks, Janet. You may have noticed in that intro that we are sans Zach today. Zach is out on assignment this week. And Janet, you are on assignment. Next week we have to record. In 2 weeks, we have to record on a different night, right?
Yeah, none of this matters. You can go ahead and cut this right on out.
Got to get right back into the flow. God damn it. You could have just helped me out there. You could have just.
No, I just wanted to see you floundering talking about. No, wait, did you say it was next? Is it next week? No, there was a week. Oh, I remember what it was. It was.
It's kind of your jam. You're an improviser. It seemed like you could have yes-anded some of that and then got me out of this.
No, the comedy comes from not yes-anding when it's funny not to.
Okay, here we go. Wait, is my clicker in here? I've lost my clicker.
There we go.
All right, you guys may have noticed that we are sans Zach this week. He's out on assignment. So it's just me and JV today. So thank you all for joining us. We've got a very lively group going in YouTube. We have some, as Janet mentioned, questions from Patreon. And as Janet mentioned, we have Facebook questions, and we got the chat going here at the same time. Before we get into that stuff, we don't have a whole lot of questions today, so this shouldn't be too long. This case was a tough one to do. There's not, and we'll get into that, but I wasn't expecting us to have a lot of questions about it, and that seems to be the case. It's just it's a hard one because there's really kind of only one thing we can do right now. But I think that there's going to be more for us to do as we move along. But before we get into that, couple things. First things first, the chat's been talking about it. Social media has been tagging me in it for weeks. I finally jumped in and gave a listen. For those of you that don't know, the Prosecutors podcast has been doing a series on Heyman Lee's case and on Sayed's case. And their take on it is that Adnan is guilty. They haven't said that, but it's pretty clear throughout it that that's their take. So of course I'm getting tagged all over social media about it, sent emails about it. Lots of people saying you need to listen to this, and because they're right and you're wrong. Lots of emails saying you need to listen to this and set them straight because they're wrong and you're right. And then several emails filled with colorful language telling me what a stupid idiot I am for ever thinking that Anand was innocent. So my first instinct for a while was I don't need the negativity. I don't need to put myself through this. I know the case. But then I kind of checked myself on that and thought, well, if I take that stance, then I'm kind of doing what I accuse other people of doing, which is not listening objectively with an open mind about these cases. So I decided I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to hear the other perspective. I'm going to listen to it objectively and see if there's a reason that I should think differently. I'm completely caught up now as of today, which is Tuesday. There was an episode that came out this week. I think came out yesterday or today. And I've listened to that. And my mind has not changed. I, like many of you, am a bit frustrated with the presentation so far, but I'm still listening with an open mind. I have, and apparently they on their Patreon mentioned this. I actually contacted Brett when I was about 7 episodes in to let him know that, hey, everybody keeps tagging us together in these. I'm listening to this. I'm listening to your coverage. I think that something that would be a good idea is for us to do a crossover. My thought was we'll record a conversation with the three of us about the case. We'll post it on your feed and my feed. And not a debate because Brett has said he doesn't, they don't like doing debates. I said, I'm not looking for a debate. What I'm looking for is because so many people are very polarized. They're right or I'm right, and people are mad about it and in both directions. I would like to have a conversation and take the different elements of the case where they have a viewpoint that is different from mine and discuss how we came to that. For example, let's take like the Nisha call. Like they looked at and presented the facts that are correct about the Nisha call, and they came to conclusion A. I looked at those same facts and came to conclusion B. We obviously disagree on that. I would like to be able to have the conversation and say, well, at least let people see that neither them or me are just randomly deciding, well, it fits my narrative, so I'm taking this. To explain the logic behind where we came to things, have a conversation, and the ideas for me is for my audience in a way that they can digest or willing to digest on my feed, hear Brett and Alice's take on the case and maybe my counters to that take. And then for their audience to hear, instead of just hearing their opinion, to hear my take on the case and their counters to my take on the case. The last I heard from Brett was he had said that after they're done, we'll try to get together. I take that to mean that that's probably still in the plans. Apparently, he had mentioned on Patreon that we had talked to his audience, to their audience. So I think that's coming when they're done. I think they said they're figuring it's going to be like 20 episodes, and I think they're like 14 or 15 in at this point. It's a lot, so they've got a little ways to go. In the meantime, I'm going nuts listening to this and trying to keep track of everything. So the first time I've ever done this, I'm going to do a series episode for episode, like I did with Undisclosed way back in the day with their coverage. I'm going to take their episode 1, I'm going to put an episode, and I'm going to put those all on Patreon. I'm more comfortable. It's a place for obviously people to support our work. It's also a place I'm more comfortable putting stuff out that's not, that doesn't have to displace anything else that I'm doing. Doesn't have to mess with any contracts that I have with Audio Boom or anything like that. It's additional bonus content that'll be out there, and it doesn't have to be clean and polished. I don't have time, nor do I plan on writing scripts. I'm going to take notes on the cases, sit down for each one, or on the episode, sit down for each one, turn the microphone on, and go through my notes and my thoughts on each episode. So I plan on starting that next week. So everybody that is on Patreon at the $5 level, which at that level is where you get all of our episodes are ad free. You get an hour of Patreon exclusive video content every week that's only for Patreon, video versions of the podcast, of the follow ups. And then now you'll also get that bonus series on the Anan Syed case that we'll do over on Patreon as well. So that's going to be coming up. I want to put out like I'm not doing this or I'm not trying to shit on the prosecutors or say anything negative to them. I disagree with some things they're saying. I want to process that in a way that I can kind of put it out for everybody to understand why I have issues with it and have a discussion. And also that's kind of Patreon's kind of a safe space where we all can, talk and chat and have conversations like we do now through the posts over there. And for those of you that don't know, if you're on, and some of you are on Patreon and still don't realize this, that go to like the Patreon app every week to listen to the ad-free episodes. They're actually, if you're on at that $5 level, they'll give you an RSS feed that you can actually plug into your normal podcast player, like Apple Podcasts or whatever. And so the podcast will just upload or download to your phone, just like any other podcast does every week. So you'll get those come through just as episodes. I don't know that I don't want to say I'm going to do one every Tuesday or I'm going to do one, it could be 2 a week. It could be 1 a week. It could be one every other week. Sure. It's when I have time in between stuff, I'm going to start breaking those down because I need to go back through and re-listen to each episode, take detailed notes because I listened to them all. Part of it for me, the reason I'm doing this is when I've listened to them all when I'm driving. And like today they were saying, I was listening and they're saying things that have to do with times. And I'm like, wait, but didn't you say in episode 1, it was this time and those times don't, and I need to sit down where I can write those things down, compare and contrast them. So we have a detailed thing. So for those of you that are already patrons, look for that popping into your feed here in the next probably week or so, that I'll get started on that. And if you're not a patron, now's a great time to join. It's $5 a month. It's $1.25 a week, and for that, you get your episodes ad free. You're going to get this bonus content. You're going to get the video content. You're going to get all that for that little bit there. And that does help us out a lot, especially with the shift and everything that we've made. That like the Patreon has become, our primary source of income at this point, our revenue for our show right now. So we really do appreciate that. With that, I don't think there's any other housekeeping stuff. So okay. I think we can move on to this case. Janet, what did you think about Andy Wagner's case from Evansville, Indiana?
Oh, it was another really tough one. It's a really tough listen. Feel so deeply for Andy's mom and the experience that she has had. We hear stories like this about the treatment of certain cases, and you prefaced it. You said, "Look, we're not really deeply into this particular season yet, and yet we already have examples of what can happen with the perception of law enforcement." And on the other side of it, maybe people argue like the resources are very limited, and so people do have to make really tough decisions about who they look for and who they don't. But it's incredibly hard to hear a mom in pain and to imagine this person that is deeply loved not being accounted for. And I continue to say this, and we see it every week on the follow-up posts, but this is but this is a hard season, and this episode did not give us a break from that.
No, it definitely did not. And as the seasons evolve, like I'm learning more about what we're doing, and I'm also like, I think this season is good. At least I can speak for myself. Um, for there's growth for me here, and I'm always looking for that, to learn more and to see the world in a different way. And part of it was when I first started the season and everybody started sending in and submitting cases. I saw cases like this one, and my first thought was, well, that's not. I mean, this is an addict that disappeared. Like, we're not going to waste time on this. And then we did Kaylana's case, and when we did her case, it came up. It was like, how they assumed that she was an addict and she was homeless, so they weren't going to look for her and they didn't give her any help. And like Zach had said during that episode, he's like, well, she's a fucking human being. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. And that really hit home for me too, to realize, like, yeah, that's right. Like, it doesn't like someone. I've learned, like, I don't like the term addict. Like she was suffering from addiction. It's a
Yes.
disease,
Yes.
like anything else. And so I took a second look at this case, and I don't know if you, Janet, or if any of you listeners have seen, like, in Elaine's Twitter or on the Facebook page, but that live video that she talked about, where she's literally crawling through a muddy creek by herself, searching for her daughter. That was what did it for me.
Yeah.
And I realized when I talked to her prior to doing the interview that there's a place for us to help. Number one, just like anything, to put the word out, to put her picture out, to put her poster out, to be looking for her, but also to try to put some pressure on the police to help. The fact that she's having, leads come in to dangerous places, and as she said, the police are telling her, well, be careful, when those are situations that the police should be going to investigate, is frustrating. So something that we've always done with Truth and Justice is to let the powers that be know that we're watching.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. It's important for us to understand that perspective, and for us to realize that, and I'm also learning too that, like, there were cases I looked at, it's like, well, this seems like a recovery, like this person's not alive. So we why we don't want to commit our resources to that because the person's already gone. And then I've realized that too, that from talking to these family members, that doesn't matter to them. If you have a loved one that is missing, even finding them deceased somewhere helps. It gives you the opportunity to start dealing with those emotions and start dealing with that grief, instead of having this unknown. So us being a part of helping them is important. And I feel good about the fact that we did this episode, that we put this information out there, and you can hear it in their voices, all of them that we've had on. Just having the opportunity for someone to listen to them makes a huge difference. And if all you do, especially for a lot of you, those that are like, well, I don't live in that area, that we've had this conversation a couple times, like, I don't live in that area, what can I do to help? You can contact the Evansville Police Department. You can send Elaine a message and just let her know that you're thinking about her, and that you're open to helping in any way she wants, just to let her know. When she said, I'm here, I don't have any help, I'm here all on my own, let her know that she does have help, that she's not alone, that we're here with her. I think that's a big takeaway for me.
Yeah.
But with that,
beautifully said.
yeah. But with all that being said, this isn't a case that unlike last week with Alex Jackson's case, that brought up a million questions. This one doesn't have so many questions.
Right.
So the ones that we do have, Jenna, I guess we'll go ahead and get into those now.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. And I just want to acknowledge Mary in the chat. We'll talk about a couple more things like this as we go through our questions from Facebook. But for those of you who have chosen to share some of your own personal experiences, your stories as family members and friends suffer through addiction. And, you know, I'm so proud of all of you, and I appreciate so much creating that community, because you are sometimes made to feel very alone if you are a person who has a family member who's going through that. If you then by extension you are going through that, in all the varying levels that this can occur. I think it does help so much to share that you've had that experience, that Elaine is not the only person who has had to go through something like this. We don't want this to happen to anyone, but it happens all the time. And I'm a huge proponent of, okay, I am not alone in this, even so far as like other people are going through this. I'm not in a vacuum. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to say such a huge thank you to those of you who have shared some of your own experiences and humanized this even further, because the more we talk about this, the more we humanize it, the more we continue to remind people that these are human beings that we need to love and care for and look out for, even though it's an incredibly difficult time. That's just going to help the big picture. It's going to help where our priorities are with law enforcement and all that kind of stuff. So thank you for sharing that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to acknowledge too that I get a lot of DMs and messages and emails from people. I rarely have time to sit down and respond to them. So I want to take this opportunity, if you're listening, that I do read them all. Because along those lines, I've had a lot of people reach out to me and just tell me that they've been through similar circumstances, or they're going through similar circumstances. I had somebody today that emailed and said that they had their child was missing for a long time, and they were eventually found deceased. And they were writing to thank me for the work, and that was kind of why I wanted to bring that up, because they had said that even though it was the worst news possible, they needed that news. They needed to know. And one thing I just want you guys to know: if you're sending, don't think that if you hit send on a message or an email or a DM, that it's going into space and getting lost. I literally read every single one of them. That was something Mike used to kind of filter and would pass on, actionable stuff to me, and so now I do it. But I go through, and a lot of times I might flag a couple of them on my phone, like, oh, I want to get back, but I just, I'm doing 3 jobs right now, so it's hard to keep up with sending them back. But just know that I do get them, I do read them, keep sending them, and that goes for. I've also had a lot of emails from people, just saying, making sure that I'm okay. For those of you that are following me on social media, that we lost our dog this weekend. And just the kind of the emotional stress of going through what we're going through now. And just know that I appreciate and love every one of you guys for doing that too. So just because you don't get a message back doesn't mean I didn't see it and appreciate it.
Well, thank you for saying that. We even had something from Tina that I did pull in from Facebook that says, like, Bob, I can't fathom how you do these interviews week after week with the families of missing people. These stories are heartbreaking, and I'm only listening to them secondhand, but you are actually listening to them in real time. I'm hoping that you're taking care of your own mental health. So sounds like Tina was speaking for many of us. And
I appreciate that, Tina. Be honest with you, I'm learning. It's been rough. This has been a much more stressful time for me than I thought it would be. But I'm leaning a lot on family and friends. Janet, I'm sure most of you guys know this, but Janet and I are really close friends in real life too. And so there's, not just on the podcast. So she definitely gets a lot of texts and calls from me when I need somebody to talk to.
And vice versa.
Yeah. So with that, we can move on to the rest of it.
Let's keep going. We're going to spread a little more love with this one. In fact, a couple more. Ellen says, no question, just a big thanks to Bob for featuring this one. So often people struggling with addiction are just not deemed worthy of attention of any kind. It breaks my heart. This mom is so strong. My heart goes out to her. And I'm just going to add Megan's comment as well. Not a question, but a comment for Andy's mother. Thank you for not ever... Oh, I'm going to start crying. Thank you for not ever giving up on your daughter. You love her so much. Don't ever feel like you didn't do enough. Your love for her would have been what she hung on to. I hope you find Andy soon. Whew. Okay. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
And then a similar comment from Kathy, another person who is a loyal listener, more than a listener, has worked with us, worked with Bob, helped so
Yeah.
much in the truth and justice capacity, and also shares some personal stories in the Facebook. I'm not going to read all of it, but I do want to read some of it here. Kathy says, not a question, but a comment. Dealing with addicts in my family, it is not hard to imagine Andy agreeing to one last time, in quotes, whether she was actually given a hot shot or her body just said no more. An overdose can't be ruled out. Whoever was with her may have panicked and maybe disposed of her body. I hate to say that. Instead of getting help. But Kathy is coming at this from a very personal place, and
Yeah.
And so some of you have this very close up perspective that you find yourselves comparing stories like Andy's to your own life. So thank you for that, and that actually brings us to the term hotshot, which I want to get into
Okay.
with you if you're ready for that. That is something that we hear is a little bit of a question mark, and so I'll read from Allie. Says, from my understanding, when someone is given a hot shot, it is given to a person to purposely overdose them or kill them without the person's knowledge who is buying and taking the drugs. Andy's mom seemed pretty unfamiliar with the term as well, so I was wondering if the supposed hot shot was thought to be given on purpose with knowledge that Andy would die from it, or if the term was being used loosely because she did die from it, so they just call it a hot shot. Is it the same names who keep coming up as the one who gave her the supposed hot shot, and does her mom think it's a viable theory based on who and where it happened, or is it just more rumor mill and hearsay?
No, I mean, it sounds to me that the most consistent story, because I've talked to Elaine some off the air as well. The most consistent tip that she's got that is not just rumor. There are people that have directly reached out to her, given her a list of names of people that Andy was with, and said that that one way or another she passed on. The tricky part is it's always the same names, but the circumstances seem to be different from what she heard. So she's heard everything from there's human trafficking, sex trafficking involved. The hot shot, the way I took to mean what a hot shot is and what she was talking about was that someone like intentionally overdosed her. Um, but as you heard, she's not super familiar with the term either, so she didn't quite understand it. All she was basically explained to was that they were, it was overdosing, given a dose of some kind of drug that would that caused her to overdose. Um, but then she's heard tips that they buried her in a hole and filled it with concrete, that they put her in a lake, that they and then there was the one where she was sent coordinates and said this is where she's at, her body's at, and that was it. So the town where I'm drawing a blank on the name of the town, but it was north of Evansville is where all this supposedly went down. The coordinates she got were in Kentucky, which is south of Evansville. But she spent that's where she was at when she made that video, when she was crawling through the mud and just searching this huge open marshy area trying to find her daughter. So I don't think it's so much rumors. I mean, maybe it is, but they're not coming into her as rumors. They're coming into her as people saying that they have like direct knowledge, they heard from somebody or they were there or whatever, and that this is what happened. And what's so frustrating to her is that she can't seem to get the police department to investigate it. It sounds like they went to look at somebody's house one time, and that was as far as they went with it. But she keeps hearing the same names come up over and over and over again.
Yeah, the hot shot question has come up a few times. I see Porphyria in the chat said they've heard of it as a hot shot being heroin combined with another opioid. Kathy adds usually fentanyl. We all know what fentanyl is doing to our human beings right now.
Yeah.
And then Sue in our Facebook follow-up says, I've heard hot shot defined as a strong hit of heroin. But regardless, we are talking about drug use and drug dealing. And Lynn points out that when people are hiding drug crimes, getting any information or cooperation is such a struggle. it's a huge roadblock for cases like this.
Yeah. And you want, like, and Elaine was very careful to say that she doesn't know why the police aren't doing it, but also that she believes it's because Andy was suffering from addiction. It feels to me like well, she's a throwaway. Like, this is not, she's an addict, so we're not going to look for it. And I'm sure there's more to it than that, because there's also, only so many resources to put into things. But I feel like if this was a, you know, and I hate to be polarizing, but like if this was like just some missing white person that wasn't suffering from addiction, that it would be all hands on deck to find her. That's what's frustrating to me is the fact that she's Hispanic. I don't know if that plays a role or not. I can't say with any certainty that the fact that she was suffering from addiction, if that plays a role or not. But it sure seems it seems very unlikely to me that any law enforcement agency would be this apathetic about a missing person if it weren't for those circumstances.
Mm-hmm. As far as the search goes, Erica says, do we know if her dad or grandparents or anyone on that side of the family have been involved in searching?
It doesn't sound like it. There was more to the interview that I just chose not to air, where Elaine kind of got into the relationship between the dad side of the family and Andy. I just didn't think it was the place to air any of that kind of dirty laundry. But I can say, from based on what she said, it does not sound like anybody from that side is helping to look.
Okay. Rihanna sort of gave her experience of listening and of being reminded of another case, the case of Jill Behrman. I hope I'm saying that right. It's not a case I'm familiar with, but that struck for her this idea of Indiana being, towns surrounded by corn and bean fields, and that if something happened to Andy, if she ended up, gosh, goodness, I just hate saying all of this. I'm so sorry, everyone. But if her body was in a cornfield, for example, it might be possible that she would be very difficult to find. People maybe think of those types of environments as being more, hills and big forests and trees and rocks and all of that. And so I think what Rihanna's trying to kind of bring to the table is just, even in the sort of farming communities, there are ways in which it would be proven difficult to find someone if you were looking into recovery.
It definitely would be, but the other thing to remember is it's been a year, which means there's been a harvest, there's been tilling, there's been planting of the field. So I think you can rule out that she was in a cornfield, and there's a lot of cornfields, because essentially the ground is taken down to the dirt. In the amount of time since she's gone missing, from August last year in the fall, there would have been the harvest, and then the tilling, and then the spring, they would have been planting. She would have been found, I think, if she was in a field.
I would say the only thing that I forgot to mention to you is that the Jill Behrman case, her body was found 3 years later in a field. So I don't know.
Yeah, I have to look
maybe
that case
that's what
up, because I'm
struck. Yeah.
curious how that would be the case.
Yeah. So from M, we have a couple of different questions. M says, are there advocacy groups that have compiled resources or toolkits that can help loved ones of missing people in their searches, since it seems there are several scenarios where law enforcement says they don't have the capacity to do everything?
There are companies like EquiSearch, we've heard mentioned on multiple occasions. That's a resource to help people search, that is not, as far as I know, it's not government run. I believe they're a nonprofit, and they are. So this week I'm hoping we have an episode all ready to go by Sunday this week. I actually had an interview scheduled for today for a case, and the case is out of it's from the Northeast, and again, in that case, Texas EquiSearch was part of searching for this person. So I think I was in Texas. EquiSearch would be only in Texas, but apparently they travel and do this stuff. But along those lines, that's another question. I mentioned to you guys a while back that I was chatting with Nina instead from Already Gone podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been again with my schedule, it's been a little tough, but I've been meaning to call her. We've been trying to get on a call. That's not on her, that's on me. She was like, "Here's my number. Let me know when we want to chat." And I haven't done that yet. But I'm going to make sure I get that done this week because I want to ask her because she would know, because that's what she really works on, specializes in missing person cases.
Mm-hmm. Porphyria has just mentioned Season of Justice, which is definitely an organization that is very respected by many different folks, including some podcasters that you know and that I hear talking about it. It's Sarah Turney is involved. They do step in as much as they can to help families in just these kinds of circumstances.
Okay.
So thank you for that shout out, Porphyria. That was timely. You're right.
I'll have to get with Sarah and ask her about that. Maybe that's something I can connect some of these families
Mm-hmm.
with.
M also says, what about fundraising for private detectives or legal representation that help with navigating access to public records, the missing person's phone and finances, psychological services for the searchers, etc.? I think luckily we just talked about that a little bit more, and Season of Justice, I think, falls into that category as well.
Yeah,
M
but
says, oh,
if
yeah, go
there
ahead.
are cases, but if there are cases where like where a family member is requesting, like we want to hire a private detective and can't, um, in those circumstances, certainly if there's a place where we can raise funds to help somebody, then we'll definitely put that up.
Great. M also says, are there ways to research Jane Doe arrests, detox, or hospital or homeless admissions, and all those kinds of things for Andy and others who may fall through the cracks in this way?
I don't know that we can do that, but law enforcement definitely can. I like to hope that Evansville PD has done that they have checked with. I think Elaine told me either on or off the air that she had checked with like every local hospital and stuff looking for her. But yeah, I like to hope that they have done that. If not, that's something again that leaning on the Evansville Police Department to do, because law enforcement will have access to that.
Okay. Sarah says, how does Indiana law define missing persons when it comes to adults, and how does that impact police response?
I apologize. I was reading a chat. Can you read that to me again?
Sure. Sarah says, how does Indiana law define missing persons when it comes to adults, and how does that impact police response?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to it. What defines a missing person? Because I know there's definitely always kind of some struggle, especially with someone who like runs it, like, because we have a lot of cases submitted that were runaways, where somebody like a teenager ran away, and that is one thing I did discuss with Nina. Because at the beginning of the season I was like, well, I feel like that's not what we're trying to cover, people that are running away. We're trying to cover cases where someone, it seems like something happened to someone and they weren't intentionally missing. And Nina had said, she's done so much work in this field that even in those cases where they started out running away, particularly with teenagers, they almost always end up in very dangerous situations. And if they haven't surfaced, and it is very important to try to put the effort in to try to find them. Like, very rarely, if a 16-year-old decides I'm taking off and they leave and no one's heard from them or found them in a month, it's very unlikely that person has just gone and started a new life somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm getting at with those cases, eventually they do become missing persons cases. I don't know the laws in each particular state or specifically Indiana. It seems like from what we've seen so far, it seems like it's a judgment call on the police department if they want to call it a missing persons case or a runaway, or when they decide. I don't know when they make that decision.
I'm actually looking. I just looked up Indiana code in their legislation for how they define missing persons, and it looks like they have a few different ways of looking at it, and they define a high-risk missing person means a person whose whereabouts are not known and who may be at risk of injury or death, and then it sort of goes down and defines what that term can include: abduction by a stranger, maybe the result of a commission of a crime, circumstances that are inherently dangerous, a person who is missing for more than 30 days, a person who is in need of medical attention or prescription medication, a missing person who may be at risk due to abduction by a non-custodial parent, a missing person who is mentally impaired, a missing person who is less than 21 years of age. So it really goes through, and of course, several of those that we just happened to read off just then, I would say apply to Andy. But
Yeah, and Goonie makes a good point in the YouTube chat. Says it gets tricky with adults because, as they put it, adults have the right to be missing. So some law enforcement agencies are hesitant to look for adults, and I think that gets tricky. So yeah, if you have like Andy is a legal adult, if what she's done is just decided she wanted to disappear, she has a right to do that. And then I think that's where that judgment call comes in, where somebody in law enforcement has to decide, okay, there are circumstances here that look like she's not intentionally missing at this point. Something has happened.
right.
And Sarah, I just want to acknowledge your super chat, not for the podcast, but thank you very much for both the super chat and your kind words. That means a lot to me, and I very, very much appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. That's wonderful. That is all I have. I was planning on closing with Tina's comment about how tough this has been and how tough it must be for you. But we talked about that at the top of the show. So that sort of brings us to the end of what I have prepared.
Yeah, and like we said, there weren't a lot of questions. Like for this case, didn't expect a lot of questions. One thing that I did have, a couple people pointed out to me that I didn't make super clear, so I'm going to make a post with this information on it. People were asking that, they've said that, like, I don't know what, like, I feel terrible for Elaine, but I don't know what to do. The biggest thing is, again, you can join that group. You can contact her directly through that. Just if nothing else, to let her know that you're supporting her. But also to contact the Evansville Police Department. And I want to put out that contact information. I'm gonna say it here on the podcast. And then I'll put a post about it, and I'll put it in the show notes as well. But the Evansville Police Department, their phone number is 812-436-7896. And the email address is info@evansvillepolice.com. That's info@evansvillepolice.com. So what I would ask is, and again, I always say this, it does not do anybody any good to belligerently scold someone for what they're doing. On top of everything else, we only have kind of Elaine's perception of what's going on, so we don't know exactly what the circumstances are. But if you could reach out to them and let them know we've heard about her case, we're trying to help them find is what do we need to do to have police further give her more assistance in looking into this, to let them know that there are thousands of people out there that are watching, that do care about Andy Wagner and do care that she is found, and would appreciate if the police department would step up and put the manpower and effort into finding her. I think that would be a big step, and that is the biggest thing that Elaine was asking for me. Once we had stopped recording, that was the biggest thing, is to please help, because that's her biggest frustration, is that, as she said, she's on her own, but when she gets a tip that a person or a place that is dangerous may be the place that she needs to look to help find her daughter, and the police tell her, well, be careful, like, that's not okay. It's not okay. They need to investigate that. They need to put the manpower into investigating that. So that's a big thing. Any of you can do from anywhere in the world can send that. Again, that email is info@evansvillepolice.com. And with that, we don't have any more questions from you guys. I want to thank you all for listening. And again, I keep saying it every week, but it means an awful lot to me every week when we're doing this. I know, but part of the stress on all of this too is we're doing something very different. It's kind of a tumultuous time in the business wise right now. So it's pretty scary to be like, hey, we're going to do something completely different than what you're used to, and hope that people are going to still stick around and listen. So every week when I, can click on the episode and see that the numbers are the same, that everybody's still tuning in. That means a lot to me that you guys are doing that you're sticking with us through this. And I think we're all, I know I'm learning a lot already, as I mentioned at the top of the episode. And then we'll get through. That's not what that's a terrible way to put that. And we're going to keep pressing along, and we're going to get through these states. They're clipping off pretty quick. My board outside is getting filled up really quickly. This Sunday, again, I have a case that I desperately want to cover that I haven't been able to get a hold of anybody to do an interview for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one I mentioned at the very onset of the season. I had talked to people. I had talked to the police, the investigating agency, who said that there's a PR department that had to approve, and that hasn't come through. I talked to Black and Missing. Is it Black and Missing or Missing in Black? Black and Missing is what.
Missing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Talk to somebody there. They're like, yes, we'll do an interview. Let me have the person who will do that contact you. Haven't heard back from them. Erica Cantor, our amazing, still calling her our production manager, even though we're not doing True Crime Binge right now, but she's still, she can't stand but to not be helping. So she's, Erica. Erica's the best, and she is still working on trying to make that connection. But I may just do an episode on that case. So what had happened was, again, I had a interview scheduled for today, which is another just bananas case. It's a complete mystery, and it will bring up a lot of questions and I think a lot of our engagement. But the person who I was supposed to interview with was part of anybody saw in the news today, Tuesday, where there were lots of storms and tornadoes. They were in that area. They were okay. Their house was okay, but their power's out, and they're saying it's going to be out for days. So we're still planning on, it's going to be for me doing the interview and editing and everything, and then come down to the wire, where on Friday we're going to try to get in the interview and get that done. So we'll see how things go this week. But
well, I think everybody has compassion for that, because it just shows you how many things that people like you and organizations that are trying to do good are sometimes grossly understaffed and are trying to juggle so many things. So it's understandable that scheduling and stuff like that could be difficult, because it's just, these are not hugely funded giant corporations that, just have like a bunch of employees at their disposal to, these are people who most of the time are doing it because they have a passion for helping others. So understandable. And I think we all accept that.
For sure. And the last thing I'm going to leave with you guys is can't do it Thursday, because Thursday is mine and Becky's 10-year wedding anniversary. So when you're hearing this, yesterday, happy anniversary to my lovely wife.
I'm sure that you had a wonderful anniversary together and that you did all the right things.
It was fantastic. I couldn't be better. I was the best husband ever last night.
Great. Wonderful. I may double check with Becky on that, but wonderful.
All right. We love you guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. We got to stop on our audio. Oh, all right, guys. We'll do a few minutes worth of super chats, and then I got that deadlock. I got that owner. It's going to be a late night for me watching these shows. Michelle did ask, when do I start my Mr. Robert Ruff? How dare you?
Oh, Robert.
Did you listen to the bloopers this week? I've done bloopers 2 weeks in a row.
No.
Yeah. Did them
again.
Wait,
I just haven't listened at all because I was traveling.
No. Do you listen when you have to these episodes that you're on?
I try to listen to everything just so that if there's anything that is screwy, I can tell you. I mean, I try to listen to everything right after it comes out so that I can say, oh my God, stop everything. This thing happened, or it's not coming out, or where is it? But no, so I'm behind, I think, 2 follow-ups, but I'm current on the episodes.
Well, I did bloopers at the end of both of them, and this week's was the Robert debacle. Was the
I can't wait. Okay, I'm gonna listen to that tonight.
Yeah,
walking
what I
into
like to
the
do
old
is
dog.
to open up the episode and then just skip to the end and listen to the bloopers.
Got it. That's a good idea to do that.
Michelle, I start my new job on August 28th is when I start.
It's right around the corner.
It is. It's gonna be so weird. I'm still really. That's like adding to the stress to me. That like it sounds like the easiest job in the world. My
Not
boss
to me.
is. Yeah. Well, I love to teach. I'm excited to get into it, and it's only 3 hours. 3 hours a day, and they're like, yeah, one of the things you can do, have your kids edit your podcast. I'm like, oh, help! Look at that.
Hey,
That's,
okay.
uh,
This is good news.
yeah, but there's a lot of like nothing set up yet. Like I talked to my principal the other day, and he's like, when the year starts, we'll get stuff together. Just calm down. I'm like, that's not how I operate. I need stuff. But it sounds like there are very little expectations of me, so it should be fine. Thank you, Devin, for the super chat. Says we binge listened to the pre-shows on the way home from New York. JJ wants to know when you two are starting your Flat Earth podcast.
Oh no.
When is it, Jay? When are we gonna get going on that?
I guess it's not at the top of my list.
No.
Not that there is a top and a bottom because the Earth is flat, so there's no such thing
Yeah.
as direction.
It's just
I'm-
left or
I'm
right,
not
up or
totally-
down.
Yeah, I'm not totally up on that. That's really funny. And I saw someone asked earlier. In fact, I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah, I know who it was. I know exactly who it was. It was old Stinky Puss. Let's make fun of Bob for not showering, if memory serves. Tiffany.
Yeah.
Was that you, Tiffany, who said what happened to the Bob and Janet shit show?
The distinguished shit show.
The distinguished shit show. Yeah, I mean you heard our schedules. It's just Bob decided that would be a fun thing for us to do, and it was.
Yeah.
Right before everything
Travel
just
season
went
started.
crazy.
Yeah. I like to think
in
we're going to do it
every way.
again.
I do
Just
too.
Just because taking an hour out of my week or my day or whatever just to sit and shoot the shit with you is super fun and it's therapeutic. You're just going to have to stop, working.
Yeah, exactly. Both of us.
Yeah.
Good luck. We'll do it with your students.
Yeah, we'll have them do it.
We'll incorporate it into your class.
What does Valerie say here? Bob, I see it being very hard for you to hand over editing responsibilities to your students, but I think this would be an excellent growth opportunity.
Fair.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. This is not
Very-
going to. It's not going to happen. But you know what? I've done it. You guys don't remember and don't really know. Me handing the reins over to Mike was. It's crazy for me to think that when Mike left, that I was at a place where I would record the episode, hand it to Mike, and be done with it. And he did his thing. Then he sent it to Shane. He did his thing. And then they posted it and published it. And I never, because when it started, because remember, neither Mike and I are audio engineers. We were
Right.
firemen.
Yes.
So like I had taught myself. And then I remember teaching Mike. And then when he first started like working full time, like he would edit one and then we would take it, put it up on my computer and sit together. And I'd go through and correct all the mistakes he made and show him how to do it better. And then
Mhm.
that somehow he went from that to he's over there with a gaming mouse doing it one-handed, going blah, 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 doing a way better job than I.
Thinking about how
could
he's
ever
going to
do.
quit and become an electrician.
Yeah, and now a dog kennel operator.
And now dog kennel operator.
Which, by the way, for those of you that wanted to know, Mike's
update.
doing fantastic. I talked to him that he called me when he heard about Titus on Saturday, and or text me and we chatted for a minute and things are going well. They're busy. They've got dogs there every day. He's taking care
That's a
of.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like him and his wife are really enjoying that.
Oh, good. That's great.
Um,
Well, give him our love as always.
I will do that. I'm super happy for them and also pissed off at him for leaving.
Mhm. Good. Be angry
all right, we'll
forever.
give it a few more seconds, see if any other super chats come in. Otherwise, we're going to go watch Only Murders in the Building or Deadlock first. Which is going to be first? It's going to
I
be
don't know.
Deadlock. It's
Okay.
been a long time since
So
Becky
are
and
you
I've been.
caught up on Hijack? Is that I still haven't
It's
started
over. It's over.
that. Okay. All right.
Yep. Fantastic. Did you guys ever
The
watch it?
whole thing. No, we have that saved, and we have now it sounds like we have something else. And again, I'm not supposed to be talking about any of this. God damn it!
I'm looking at the chat. I'm talking to Devin. Hey, Devin, definitely take the time and watch Hijack and also watch Deadlock. But you can still, in solidarity, send a shitty message to Idris Elba. Maybe no, he's one of the good guys. To but if you do talk to Idris, let him know I said hey to Apple and to Amazon Prime. Tell them to go fuck themselves. But then watch them because
They don't have to fuck themselves. They just have to pay people fairly. That's all.
That's all. That's
We'll
all.
get there.
But because they're not paying people fairly, they can fuck themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we have managed to the dynamic duo go for 2 hours and 11 minutes. It says up here on top of my screen.
All right.
Here's the hoping that we have 2 hours and 11 minutes of video for our patrons.
Yes. Very helpful.
Speaking of Patreon, get on. I'm super excited. I hope a lot of people are going to listen to this add-on thing because I'm excited because it's
yeah, I'm sure they will.
It's as I was thinking about like how I'm going to do it, I don't have a whole lot of bandwidth, as you know, right now to do anything. But I was like, I don't need to. I'll just do it on Patreon. I don't need to write scripts. I don't need to do music. I could just bang these things out. And I was like Serial Dynasty, back at the beginning.
That's right, everybody.
I think I couldn't do it now with like the cases we do, and I think like, how did I do that? Every week I would sit down with a pad of paper like this.
Yep, you love those pads.
And and I would just be like, all right, so first of all, there was this, and this, and da 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 da, and I would just let it rip. No script, no nothing.
Love it. But I love it, yet you have come a long way. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I did
cringe
love it,
when
and I loved it and
back
listened then.
Yeah.
Been
So
there
you
since the
patrons, when you do listen to this, just know that it's going to be off the cuff, rough. It's just going to be just me. I thought about even doing it like on here, like video, and then releasing video too. But it depends on how bad I fuck up while I'm reading it if I want to, because like that's a lot. I'm sorry, real quick. I want to go through because somebody Goonie was saying stuff to me and I was missing it. Right. Thanks for all you and your team do, brother. This and other injustices. You're a beacon in this dark world, amigo. Thank you, Goonie, so much. I kind of caught it out of the corner of my eye when it went through.
I like that they called you Baba Rooney in the next one.
Yeah, you're not alone, Baba Rooney. So, but Goonie, I just want to acknowledge that I did see it come through. That much like the emails I get, I saw it and thought I'll respond to that later, and then everything kept going. Yeah. What the hell?
Oh!
How did you even get this link?
Are you still recording?
We were like literally right now
We're just about to sign off. Hi, buddy.
Hi, guys.
Oh, that's right. You're an admin on the account. I was like, how the fuck did you get here?
Michelle just said, she's like, Bob and Janet are still recording. I'm like, oh shit, watch this. I'm like, I'm gonna see if I can get in.
I love it.
Hello, friends.
Oh.
Now
I'm so guilty that I bowed to pressure and didn't say ahoy.
Ahoy, friends.
Oh.
Real quick, I remember, but Janet doesn't. What did you have to do tonight that made it so you couldn't?
I have family in town.
It was a family thing for sure.
Family. That's what I was saying, Janet, was that they had family in town, and that's why
we did that fishing trip last year where Maddox went on the money.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
Oh yeah.
So,
well, it's good. Well,
I hope it was fun.
Well, I mean, we're still fishing and stuff, but
are you at home? You're not at home, are you?
I'm at home right now. Yeah.
Oh,
but we still got tomorrow to go. But today and tomorrow. But they're downstairs playing cards right now.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Well, tell everybody we said hi.
Yeah, I know. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna log into StreamYard and see if I can get in this.
That was so fun.
And
I thought Bob was like doing his best acting to date because he seemed genuinely also surprised. But I was like, there's no way he must have known this was all gonna happen. But
nope.
I love that you snuck in. That's amazing.
I had just responded to my last comment, was sliding the cursor down towards the Leave Studio button, and then you popped on. So I'm glad, and everybody gets a good look at your hairline now. Give him a peek. Give him a good peek. Let him see the shine.
It's rough, man. It's rough.
Yeah. Well, hey, I'm gonna see you. Well, I'll see you before then. I was thinking I have a tattoo appointment coming up, but that's next week, and you'll be here before that.
Is that next week or is it this? Yeah, probably. I don't know.
I think it's the 17th, something like that.
No, that's next week.
Yeah.
All right. Love you guys.
Love you,
buddy.
Love ya.
Bye. And what a perfect time for us to end this. Oh, real quick.
Jenny, Ginny
Real
jumped
quick.
in live
Boom!
today and
Ginny's a
became a
new
new
Patreon
Patreon subscriber. Yay!
Thank you, Ginny, for the super
Ginny.
chat and the Patreon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Zach, I just announced I even told you this, that I'm going to, on Patreon, I was listening to the prosecutors take on the Adnan Syed case, and I'm full of ideas about it, thoughts. So I'm going to do a Patreon series just for patrons, where I'm going to do an episode by episode
All right.
thoughts and breakdown of the Patreon of the prosecutors coverage on
like
here.
Fantastic. Can't
I
wait.
like it.
And that was enough to sucker Ginny into giving us $5 and then a
Boom!
$10 super chat to tell us that she
Mhm.
gave us the $5.
Mhm.
We appreciate it. All right, Zach, go be with your family. Thanks, brother.
Love you
Good to see you.
guys. Bye.
Love you
Bye,
guys.
buddy. Love ya.
I don't know how to log on my phone, so
Maybe you're stuck with
Uh,
us until Bob shuts it all off.
yeah, because there's an
ending.
end button, but I'm afraid that'll end it because I have producer rights.
I'm hitting end
Understood.
broadcast right now. Bye, YouTube. We
Bye,
love you guys.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye, YouTube.